Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back again to a brand new video, and today's video is going to be interesting for most, and would like to share with you some of the tips that will help you to improve your core strength, and as well as how does it translate to improving in the sports performance, and how also it will help you to prevent and lower back pain. Now, most of us have the misconception of training your core by doing tons of sit-ups and tons of crunches. Now, that is actually not the way to train your core muscles, right? That is only training your rectus abdominis, which means the superficial layer of your abdominal muscles. Now, if you want to improve your aesthetics, you want to improve your physique, you want to look good, you want to have six-pack abs, right? Doing sit-ups and crunches, actually that will help, but you got to keep in mind in that your body fat has to be low as well in order for you to see the definition in your abdominal muscles, okay? The six-pack abs. All right, now when it comes to performance, you're gonna train slightly more different, okay? So what I mean by core muscles is that this is another layer of your abdominal, which is actually hidden in the deeper of your abs muscles, okay? So as we know, the superficial layer is your rectus abdominis. All right, now is what we call, more scientific term, is what we call the transverse abdominis, okay? So this is actually the deep core stabilizers that stabilizes our spine in order to maintain the rigidity and the integrity. All right, so that is the core function, is to protect our spine by creating some stiffness. Now, why is it so useful in sports? All right, so as we know that high intensity sports, like when you're doing high impact sports, contact sports example, this actually requires a lot of movement. All right, so you want to make sure that your core and your spine has a good stability in order for you to prevent any sort of injuries, okay? So a lot of times back pain is due to instability in around the hip and as well as your lower back, and probably lack of the anterior core strength, okay? So to prevent that, you have to start to strengthen your core, not by doing crunches and sit-up, because in sports context, doing sit-ups and crunches is just one plane of movement. All right, we got to understand that sports requires you to move in the three dimensions, so you're always constantly running to left and right, and then 1 seconds later you're gonna run to the back, and then you're gonna have someone coming from the side to push you away, things like that, okay? So how you actually create an exercise that stimulate this kind of environment, right? So we want to make sure that the specificity is there, okay? So the is related to the sports. All right, so the most common core strength exercises that we do, that we see most people do in the gym, is what we call the plank. All right, so this is actually very universal exercises. Now everybody knows how to do it now. Very simple. Now moving on to that, speaking of that, actually we are just training the core muscle, the endurance portion of your transverse abdominis, which is your deep core muscles, okay? You're just training the endurance, right? Now we're going to bring it to another step, right, which we want to train the core stability by adding some instability when you're doing core exercises. Example, like when you're doing bird dog, right? So now most of us think that this exercise actually works for your buttock muscles, but in reality this is actually not for your buttock muscles, this is for your core muscles. In fact, I think most of us are feeling in the wrong way. We're feeling it on our lower back when we do this. This is a very common problem, okay? So now how you actually improve when you're doing this exercise to really target that core muscles. Okay, so just imagine, I can show you in this picture right here, the person is actually doing this bird dog. They are lifting their left arm and then they're lifting the right leg, okay? So it's a contralateral movement, and what it does, that when you, the moment when you lift your arms and your legs up, you're gonna find yourself pretty hard to balance that body. Okay, so this actually creates some sort of instability. So the reason we are training this is just to make sure that our spine is always, regardless of any sort of unstable movement, our trunk will always hold ourselves into a position. Okay, so our core will always there to always engage. Okay, so we gotta try to fire up our core muscles in that way. Okay, so that's one of the way to add some challenge in doing your core exercise. Okay, so now moving on into a different tier of this. Right after that stability, we're gonna upgrade just a little. Now just imagine if you're playing a rugby, or if you're playing soccer and things like that. Okay, you have the opponent coming and try to take the ball away from you. They're gonna push you away. All right, so you're gonna have some external force coming in and push you away. So what you do is to make sure you have to decelerate. All right, you have to stop yourself from going too far away. All right, which means prevent yourself falling. Okay, so how you do that is from a good core strength. Okay, so what we hear is what I'm saying is that you're gonna have to resist that torque, the external torque coming in to you. Okay, so just imagine how you can actually do that in your exercise. All right, so one of it is that if you have a resistance band, you can actually put it on your waist, and then you tie it on your pole or something like that. Okay, and then you try to move yourself away from the pole until you feel there's a resistance pulling, all right, to the other direction. Now you don't want to let that happen. You want to make sure that you're still on the proper plank position, regardless of how hard that band pulls you away. Okay, so that is another way to actually train your core, by resisting the external torque. Okay, so now moving on after this, you can you can upgrade to another level, is what we call concentric rotational power. Now in some sport context, all right, when we're doing sports, there's some certain movement that we actually need to produce force by when turning. Okay, so example, like if you're playing golf, all right, so you need to produce power and you turn. All right, so this requires some trunk movement. All right, same goes to badminton. If you're smashing, or if you're playing tennis, or you're serving, or even if you're running and you're trying to catch the ball, it all requires some rotational movement. Right, so the way to train that is I can show you an exercise right here, and which is, if you have an athlete holding on to the medicine ball, and the way to do it is to just stand facing sideways and just toss the ball to the wall. All right, so that is one of the way to do it. Now just a quick recap again. There's a few different levels to train your core. Now there's obviously a lot of exercises, choices and things like that, but what I want you to know is you got to develop a certain foundation. All right, so plank endurance, core endurance, and then core stability, and then we're moving into resisting the external torque, and then we're moving into a concentric producing power, rotational power. Okay, so I hope you guys find this video super useful. All right, please give a like, and if you have any comments, do feel free to comment it down below and share it to your friends. And I hope you guys are well, stay safe, and I'll see you again